Ladies and gentlemen, we're back. We've got a truckload of Minterbeer to get through. I'm hoping you're all voting away as we speak. But this is, as you can see from the backing, a little bit of Boulder. I don't know when I'll get back to doing a little bit of Boulder, so I thought, you know what, before the votes tally up, and before I spend the next month or so doing Minterbeer Opal, I just want to sneak in a quick little Boulder, and I picked an absolute stunner. So it's actually fairly wide. It's almost reminiscent of some Cooper material, but the ironstone gives it away. It is definitely Boulder, and you can see in this window here where there's a bit of a breakage, so you get that glassy breakage. You can see there's just, oh, it's amazing color. It's just one of your fiery, multicolored, non-directional pieces. It's got this nice ironstone backing naturally, so even if this was pretty crystalline, you'd still get that backing really highlighting it. So there's not a huge amount of work to do on this one, hopefully. I just want these little ironstone spots to just rub out, and then we're basically just gonna possibly shape it into a little diamond because it's a nice size for a ring. I mean, my fingers, that's my index finger, my fingers are pretty chunky, so on a lady's finger this would be much smaller, and if we can get that color and we can keep that kind of size, I think we are well on track to getting a beautiful piece. We'll chuck it on the scales. We're looking at, yeah, a bit over 6.5. A fair bit of this ironstone's going to disappear, of course, on the back here. It's pretty thick. It's actually fairly lopsided too, so we're going to take down this point here and make it nice and flush with the opal. I don't think we'll go all the... I think there'll be a little bit left on the back, but it might only be a thin little piece, and we will see what we end up with, but I'm hoping for a nice diamond stencil out. I'm not sure. I think my stencils cover diamonds. I'm not sure. I know they've got squares. There's probably diamonds on the same page. Looking at it just like this is how I want it to be. And then a nice little claw setting or something on a ring should look beautiful. Maybe a wire wrap. Wire wrap might cover too much. Might have to go with a claw. The only way we're going to know is to dive in. So we'll do a tiny bit with the diamond sintered bits just to get rid of some of this ironstone. Just get rid of these little pockets. Smoothing out the edges because you don't want to cut your novas on the edges. I think I've actually shown before, but see, if you look really carefully, it's rubbing out. See that line there? That's where a little bit of opal, I hit a sharp edge on the backing of an opal and it gouged a little piece out of my precious rose nova tip, which is actually holding up and is in really good shape, but I guess it is a pretty fine grit, so it's almost polishing. Let's dive straight into getting this one sorted, and hopefully we end up with this. Let's do it. We've got plenty of colour. It's looking amazing so far, but I'm not liking this corner. So this corner here is running a bit thin. The boulder actually comes all the way through. I tried to get rid of that and it just wouldn't go, and now I see the boulder behind it. So we're going to have to take some more drastic measures and we're going to cut that off and round that around here. We're probably going to end up with a bit of a teardrop shape as I trim these two sides over here off and round it from about here all the way through to right over to this side. So it's alright, it's not too bad. Then I've just got to even up this edge, clear off a lot of that fogginess and hope that this pattern comes through. I think this streaky part here is gonna persist, which is a bit of a shame, but there is colour also hidden under there. So we'll just trim that back, we'll trim that edge back to hide that boulder and make it just a full-faced, probably teardrop. Hopefully with not too many bad streakings over there. It still looks a bit foggy over here. I reckon that'll go down a little bit further. It has to anyway, because that's where the chips come out of it. So the starting rough, this part here is still glassy from an area that I haven't touched with the diamond bit, and then there's this little edge here. Both of those need to get taken down, which I need to do anyway because the colour is under there. Pretty clear battle plan, and we're just going to push on. I'll get the coarse diamond bit out again, and we will trim it down to size, and then we should be up to the novas. Well, this has been quite the piece so far, and it's been a lot of fun trying to carve it thus far. You would have seen, initially I used this. This is a 350 to 400-ish grit sintered diamond piece, where I just scraped off a lot of the face, and you can see, if we zoom in really close, there's a couple areas that still haven't been hit by the bit. So just in here, where the main fracture was in the rough, just over here, and a little bit on the tip there. I'm not going to keep going with it just because I do worry about diamond bits. Because they're so hard, I don't want it to cause any chips rather than, well, just trying to get to the bottom of these chips. I don't want to be creating more. So I'm going to switch to the Nova tips on that. But you also saw that I used this, so the ultra coarse, it's about 80 grit. So 80 grit sintered diamond tip. And I used that to get this shape. So did a little bit of the shaping, and then I did switch back to the yellow again and just do some minor evening out, smoothing, and just basically using a higher grit just to get a nice little fog on the edges. So I got the final shape. This is about it. So it's turned into a teardrop. I took all that bottom edge off. If I just dunk my finger in some water and chuck it on top, there you go. Now you can see through the fog, and yeah, this patch over here, it didn't turn out to be streakiness of boulder, it turns out to be streakiness of colour, so that's a huge win. It looks a little bit different, but I kind of like how it messes up the face of the opal a little bit. The fogginess has died out a lot and more of the colours coming through. This will only improve with the Nova tips, so I'm going to be switching over to the black and getting rid of those last little chips, and the whole thing should be nice and evenly fogged. And then we'll be getting rid of that fog slowly with the next 3 Novas and then cerium oxide. And we're going to end up with a full-faced, beautiful, multicoloured boulder. There's a lot of red, a lot of blue, little bit of green, but mainly red and blue. So it's shaping up to be an incredible piece. Managed to get all the boulder out of the face. You can see here it does try to sneak up the sides a little bit in these 2 areas, but you don't see it from the front, so it's a full face boulder. The hardest part was just shaping it, and now it'll be using a Nova to get to the bottom of those chips that started. And yeah, it's all fun and games from here. Pretty easy going, just gotta hit every surface well and truly with the Novas, 1 stage at a time, and then we'll get to the cerium oxide and you'll see the final polished piece, and it should be pretty good. There you go, it's fully fogged over and dried out. So let's make sure that this fogging doesn't happen anymore by hitting it with the Novas. Well, holy cow, this one has turned into an absolute stunner. I've got it on the macro lens, which kind of messes around with the autofocus a bit if I move it backwards and forwards, so I'm going to try to keep it real still, but have a look at this piece. So you can see already that it is not the shape that I originally intended, so it didn't end up as the rhombus or whatever I was aiming for originally, the diamond kind of shape, just because of that potchy tail end, but I am not disappointed at all. Now if I take the macro lens away, so here you can get a good idea of the shape. It's a nice little symmetrical teardrop. I was going to get it off the IKEA pencil dop stick, but it's actually glued on really well at the moment, so I'm going to have to soak it in some water to encourage it to come off because I don't want to risk snapping it at all. And then I'm just going to work on these sides and just take back a little bit of that ironstone. So instead of seeing it just creep out from around some of the edges, I'm just going to tighten that up and bring it right under the crystal. Plus you always want to have a little bit of a nice little curvature on the back as well, right at the end of the piece. So I'll get it off and do that, but my god, it is such a fantastic piece. There is one caveat to it. Yeah, so if I zoom right in, you'll see it here. There's this one potch line going across here. It's exactly the same as the potch lines here. So these ones you can see where it's a little bit wavy, and it's got that little bit of a mark there, which is a little undesirable, but I still love what it's contributing to the stone. And yeah, there's just one over here. It's like a stray hair. It kind of dives off. But you can see here, the color in this piece is huge. So it's quite amazing. And for a boulder, it's full-faced, so if you had it set in a certain fashion, you wouldn't even know it's boulder. It is definitely boulder. You can see the natural ironstone right there. So it's quite a piece. Quite a piece indeed. Red and blue predominantly, and then a little bit of green mixed in there occasionally. So yeah, unbelievable. It's actually taken me 2 days to cut as well, because I've just wanted to shape it and polish it as best as humanly possible, because it deserves it. I even cut my fingernails just before recording this part. Like that. I thought I had to look my best on camera when I had an opal like this here as well, so yeah. Well, that's that one finished, and we'll now be moving on to Mintaby. I just really wanted to sneak a little boulder opal in before we went down into the world of Mintaby, because I might be there for a while. Might be doing some Mintaby for a while. Hopefully it goes well and we get some absolute stunners out of it, but once again, here's Boulder just showing that it's still there and it still produces amazing pieces. On to the next video.